So a while ago I made a video about the fact that I was getting rid of my Canon SL2 or 200D and actually ditching DSLRs and all interchangeable lens cameras forever, at least for the purpose of vlogging. I also said I'd let you know what camera I had replaced the 200D with, so here it is. This is the Sony RX10 Mark II. It's a camera that came out 3 years ago in 2015. So it is a fixed lens bridge camera. So it's got a honking great zoom on it. I'll get into all the details, but basically I paid $900 Australian for this because it was from Sony refurb on eBay. And the only thing that was wrong with it was that it had a very, very slightly damaged box. The actual camera is brand new. So I'm really happy with that deal because I think these things still retail for about $1,700 or $1,600 here in Australia. So I wouldn't pay that for it. But let's get into why I went to this camera and what I think are its good points. So for me, the major highlight of this camera, what it's all about, is the lens. It is a 24 to 200mm equivalent constant f2.8 aperture. So that means that you've got a nice 24mm wide out to a 200 telephoto, reasonably good. I don't need any more than that. And you're always at f2.8. So you don't have that exposure shifting as you crank down the aperture as you get out further, which most, at least kit lenses, have got. So I really appreciate that. And it's a really sharp lens as well. It's Carl Zeiss branded, so it's a really nice piece of glass. I've got the included lens hood on here, which just lives on there. And I've also got a fairly cheap UV filter as well, because I want to protect that glass. Because it's a fixed lens, if I smash it, I might as well throw the camera away, because it's going to be very expensive to fix. Can't just buy a new lens for it. It shoots 4K. in up to 30 frames a second if you're NTSC, or 25 frames a second if you're in a PAL country like I am in Australia, but I think you can swap between the two. Although I haven't used that yet. I will, but I haven't had the chance to yet. I shoot in 1080p, and it's Sony's, what is the codec called? I'm going to get this wrong. Is it XAVCS? I think it's the consumer version of their proprietary codec. And it's got a 50 megabits per second bit depth, bit rate rather, in 1080p, which is really, really nice. And I've been very happy with the image quality coming out of this. I'll flash up some examples for you. Yeah, I've had no complaints on the image quality. It's only a 1-inch sensor, but for me, it's more than good enough. I'm not a pixel peeping, absolute critical image quality kind of person, so your mileage may well and truly vary. I can't speak for you, but I think for most people this is going to be more than enough. Maybe not in extreme low light, it's not a beast in the absolute dark, but it handles itself very, very well. And it's also got 1080p in 120 frames a second, which is great. Still not that common in a lot of cameras, particularly at this price point. And I've been making quite a bit of use out of that. When you slow it down, it's so smooth and nice and dramatic. You can get some really cinematic footage out of this. I think this is kind of aimed at professionals, maybe as a B or a C cam. But it's my A cam, because it does everything and more than I need it to do. It's got even the flat profiles, the Sony SL2 and several other flat kind of profiles if you're really into grading and all of that. I mean, I do a bit of that. I'm still learning. Haven't used them yet, but room to grow is the way I see it. It's yeah, it's a nice bit of kit in that respect. What else do I like about it? Okay, well, built-in mic jack, of course, and actually the preamp in this is really nice and quiet. I haven't noticed any of that hiss that I was getting in the background of my videos like I used to get with Canon. So Sony have put a nice preamp into this, which is a bonus. But we've also got a headphone port as well, which is awesome. So you can monitor audio while you're filming, which is really, really nice to do. And you can get levels up on the screen while you're rolling as well, which I couldn't get in the SL2. That's really reassuring to me when I'm filming. I want to know that that external mic I've plugged in hasn't been knocked or the battery's run out or something's gone wrong. I want to know that I've got sound going into the video, and I can on that. So that's a really big plus for me. Other little touches that Sony have done that I appreciate. It's got an aperture ring on the lens, and it's got a little selector button on the underneath there where you can go between having clicks. Photographers are like that, or turn it off. Smooth, great for video. So yeah, they've really thought things through. This is really what I consider to be a very well thought out hybrid camera, as I always felt that the DSLRs I had were really photography cameras that happened to shoot nice quality video in some cases, but they weren't always great from a usability point of view. Whereas I think from the ground up, Sony have tried to make this a true hybrid camera. We've got a built-in 2.36 million dot electronic viewfinder, which I really like. The DSLR was obviously an optical viewfinder, so when you started shooting video, the mirror would flap up and you could not use the viewfinder for video. So if you're in very sunny conditions like I am most of the time here in North Queensland in Australia, and your screen's getting washed out in the sun, then on this camera I can look through the viewfinder and actually see what I'm filming and judge my exposure and focus in real time, which is really handy. It's nice and big. It's not the biggest, clearest picture compared to more recent and more expensive cameras, but honestly, I mean, I wear glasses and I can get close enough. Sometimes I'm squinting a little bit, so I would like it if they sold a rubber eye cup. I haven't been able to find anything online. That's a bit of a shame. But it's got an automatic eye sensor, so it swaps between the screen and the viewfinder really smoothly. And unless it's really dark, it can get a little bit noisy, but nothing that renders it useless. And it kind of keeps up if you're panning as well. But I mean, I don't do much of that, to be honest. Who does that? I don't know. Crazy people. But yeah, that works really, really nicely. So that's a nice upgrade for me. We've got a card slot on the side, which is cool. The SL2 didn't have that, they had it in the bottom, and so do the vast majority of mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras. But I guess that because Sony have got a bigger body here and a nice decent kind of grip actually, they've had the room to accommodate that card slot. So that's really cool. It means that if you're on a tripod, you don't need to take the camera off to change the card. And in fact, actually, the way that Sony have done the battery compartment here, I'm still able to take the battery out when I'm on a tripod. That's probably because I've got quite a small tripod with a small plate, so I can still do that. If you've got a big pro video tripod and fluid head and all the rest of that stuff, then you might struggle in that respect, but you probably will on most cameras anyway. So yeah, I really like that. You've got an actual physical exposure compensation dial here, which is nice for tweaking the exposure on the fly, which is really good, something again that I didn't have in the SL2. Having said that, it's not the perfect camera, of course. I mean, what is? There isn't one. There are a few issues. The one which most people are aware of would be the lack of dual pixel autofocus or any kind of phase detection autofocus. This is just a contrast detection autofocus system, so it is not going to be great for video. It's going to hunt in and out. It's actually not bad. Having said that, it's not the worst, but if you're used to Canon's dual pixel or even other forms of, like the Sony's got a phase detection autofocus, and I think Olympus have as well these days, it's not going to track moving objects as well as those. But the reason why that doesn't bother me, because I knew that beforehand, is that when I decided to get this camera, I had already made the decision that it wouldn't be like one of these kind of vlogging cameras. Like I wouldn't be walking around with it on a little bendy tripod or whatever, trying to vlog myself and then going back there and focusing out distance and doing that and focusing, and then coming back and saying, oh yeah. Because I decided in getting rid of the SL2 that I don't think vlogging with any kind of large camera, much less an interchangeable lens camera like a DSLR, is really a good idea. Now, some people are going to disagree with me, fair enough, but for me, it's much more important to have portability, simple ergonomics, a little camera that you can grab out your pocket or your bag, turn it on, start shooting, and be spontaneous rather. So I'm happy to use my G7X compact camera or my phone or a GoPro for that kind of low production run and gun vlogging. This camera I bought to be behind the camera. I bought it to shoot B-roll with, to use at work where I make videos and do photos, or to have it on a tripod and film myself, which I would be doing with it now if I didn't have to hold it and talk about it. I never intended it to be a sort of vlogging camera. So for me, the fact that it didn't have a great responsive autofocus system, it's not really a negative. It'd be nice to have it, of course, but it hasn't got it. I knew that beforehand. It doesn't really worry me. I haven't missed Canon's dual pixel AF as much as I thought I would. Yeah, so there's that. I mean, it also does not have a touch screen as well, which a lot of people are going to have an issue with. But quite honestly, I mean, I only ever use the touchscreen on my Canon for the dual pixel autofocus. So it hasn't been that hard to kind of adapt away from that. And I honestly, I don't really miss it that much. This has got focus peaking as well, by the way. So, and a lovely, big, smooth focus ring too. So I'm able to focus quite easily in manual focus. I don't always nail it, but I'm getting better. It's a good skill to learn. And there haven't been many times when I've thought, oh, damn, I wish I had that autofocus in video. And for stills, actually, I must say, it's pretty good. Sometimes it hunts a little bit in low light, but you just got a switch here and you just switch to manual if that's the case. But it's pretty snappy throughout the range in good light for photography. So all in all, yeah, it's not a positive about the camera, but it's not, for me, a huge negative either. Battery life, some people have reported that the battery life on these cameras isn't great. That's honestly not something that's unique to just only this camera, but it's honestly not that bad. I'm still getting a couple of hours out of each battery. The Sony ones are really expensive. Don't buy any spares of those. Just get yourself, like I did, some cheap third-party generic ones and a charger. It doesn't come with a proper charger. That's another thing. I had to buy a wall charger for it. But yeah, I always make sure I've got a couple of fully charged batteries, and I'm good to go. But I've never run out of juice yet. But it's just a case of staying organised. Make sure you've always got 1 or 2 spares, and you'll be good to go. No issues there. So there you go. Overall, then, I'm pretty happy with the RX10 Mark II. It's overall a great camera. It's not perfect. No doubt I will succumb to my lust for another camera at some point in the future. But for now, I feel really, really happy with this little beast. It does what I need it to do brilliantly. I got a good deal on it. So hunt around for a refurb or a good quality, well looked after second-hand one. Try and avoid that rather extortionate shelf price. But no, it's a great camera. Let me know what you think. Have you ever tried one of these? Did you get on with it? Have you got some criticisms that you think are not so good about the camera? Have a discussion in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next one soon.